The rain beat against the windows of the car, a soft rhythmic tapping that seemed to match the pounding of Mia's heart. She sat in the passenger seat, her fingers gripping the armrest as Lucas navigated through the storm, his focus unwavering. Mia couldn't stop the thoughts racing through her mind. It had only been a few weeks since she'd allowed herself to trust him, but already everything had changed. She had never expected to find someone like Lucas, someone who made her feel seen, someone who didn't just want to take from her, but wanted to build something real. Yet there was still something she hadn't shared with him, a secret buried deep in her past that threatened to unravel everything. "Mia," Lucas said, his voice breaking the silence, "are you sure you're okay?" She looked at him, the weight of his words heavy in the air. This was more than just a question. It was a plea for her to open up, to tell him the truth. And for the first time in her life, Mia realized something. She wasn't sure if she could. Welcome to my channel. Press number 1 if you're ready to dive into the story and hit the like button if you're not ready to start. Sit back and join me on this emotional roller coaster. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. Let's get started. One rainy afternoon, Mia, a 35-year-old woman, walked into a recruitment agency. She had a high-end job in a luxury real estate firm, but today, she was looking for something entirely different. A personal driver. Her life had always been easy, revolving around luxury shopping, spa days, and constant meetings, but recently, she felt an unfamiliar emptiness inside. Mia was not used to being vulnerable, but after a recent breakup with her longtime partner, she realized that her life, although luxurious, lacked meaning. She needed someone dependable, someone who could help her feel a little less alone. And that's when she found the ad for a private driver. When she walked into the agency, she immediately caught the attention of the staff. Mia, dressed in a sharp business suit, exuded an aura of elegance and sophistication. She handed over her requirements. A young man under 30, with a B2 driver's license, able to live in her house for convenience. The salary was generous, a sum that would tempt anyone. The agency found a candidate quickly. A young man named Lucas, 24 years old, from a small town. Lucas had been struggling financially after his mother fell seriously ill. With no other family to turn to, he had moved to the city for work. He had a brief experience as a taxi driver, and the salary offered was exactly what he needed. Mia was impressed by Lucas' professionalism when he arrived at her home. He was well-groomed, with a tall, athletic build that made him stand out. As they exchanged introductions, Mia couldn't help but notice how his presence seemed to fill the room. Lucas' calm demeanor and polite attitude were exactly what she needed. As the days passed, Lucas proved to be more than just a driver. He was someone Mia could rely on, and their interactions became increasingly frequent. She noticed how easily they talked to each other, and soon they were sharing more than just casual conversation. One afternoon, as they returned from a shopping spree, Mia found herself sitting beside Lucas in the car, the silence between them more comfortable than ever. She caught a glimpse of him through the rearview mirror, and for the first time she felt a strange flutter in her chest. Was it attraction? Or was it something deeper? The next few days were filled with a quiet tension between Mia and Lucas. She began to notice the way his muscles flexed under his shirt as he reached for something in the back seat, the way his hands, strong and steady, gripped the steering wheel. His presence was magnetic, and every time he moved, it seemed to draw her eyes toward him, even when she tried to look away. One evening, after dropping Mia off at a high-profile gala, Lucas drove back to the parking lot, but something inside him refused to leave. He found himself walking back to the event, not entirely sure what he was hoping to find. As he reached the grand hall, he saw Mia from a distance, talking to a group of important guests. Her dress, tight and satin, clung to her body like a second skin, accentuating every curve. The way her hair cascaded down her back, the slight arch of her neck as she laughed, it was impossible for him to look away. Mia noticed him almost immediately, her eyes locking with his across the room. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow down. She hadn't expected to see him there, but something about the way he looked at her made her feel exposed, as if he could see past the layers she'd built to protect herself. His gaze was intense, lingering on her lips for a second too long before he finally broke eye contact. After the event, Mia went to her car, but just as she was about to get in, Lucas appeared beside her. His broad shoulders seemed to fill the space beside her, his body towering over hers, his presence overwhelming. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said, his voice soft but laced with a subtle intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "I just couldn't stay away." His words were a confession, though he didn't say them directly. Mia's heart raced, and she could feel the heat rising in her cheeks. She had always prided herself on being in control of her emotions, but Lucas made her feel like she was losing that control, just a little. "I didn't expect to see you here," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes lowered as she tried to regain some composure. "Maybe that's the problem," Lucas said with a soft chuckle. "You never expect me to be around." His smile was playful, but there was an edge to it, something that made Mia wonder if he knew exactly what he was doing to her. His hand brushed against hers as he moved to step back, the brief touch sending a wave of heat through her body. The moment lingered between them, both of them feeling the magnetic pull but unwilling to acknowledge it fully. Mia turned to open the door, but before she could, Lucas stepped closer, his breath warm against her ear. "I'll see you tomorrow," he whispered, his voice low and inviting, sending another shiver through her. As Mia drove home that night, she couldn't stop thinking about Lucas. His words echoed in her mind, the way he made her feel seen in a way she hadn't allowed anyone to see her in a long time. She wasn't sure what this was, attraction, longing, or something else, but one thing was clear. Lucas was no longer just her driver. The next day, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something was different. Lucas had been on her mind all night, his words, his touch, the way he looked at her with that intensity. It all seemed to linger in the air between them. She tried to focus on her work, but every glance she stole toward the window, every thought, seemed to bring her back to him. Later that afternoon, Lucas picked Mia up from the office as usual. He was wearing his usual fitted black suit, and Mia couldn't help but notice how the fabric stretched across his broad shoulders, the muscles in his arms flexing as he adjusted the rearview mirror. Every movement of his seemed to be effortlessly graceful, and Mia found herself watching him more than she intended. As they drove through the city, the tension between them seemed to grow thicker, charged with an unspoken electricity. Mia could feel it in the air, in the way their proximity affected her. She shifted slightly in her seat, feeling a flutter in her stomach when Lucas glanced at her out of the corner of his eye. His presence was overwhelming, and for a moment, she wished she could ignore the feelings that were beginning to surface. "Mia," Lucas spoke quietly, his voice low but carrying a weight that made her heart skip a beat. "Are you okay? You seem distant today." His gaze flickered to her for a brief moment, but it was enough to make her pulse race. He had a way of seeing through her defenses, and it made her feel exposed. Mia hesitated, unsure how to respond. She couldn't tell him the truth, not yet. Not when the truth was that every time he looked at her, her heart raced a little faster. "I'm just tired," she said quickly, trying to mask the truth. "It's been a long week." Lucas didn't seem convinced, but he didn't press further. Instead, he continued to drive, the silence between them growing more palpable with each passing mile. Mia could feel his presence beside her, as though every inch of space was filled with the tension they both refused to acknowledge. They arrived at her apartment, and as Mia opened the door to step out, she felt his hand rest on her arm, just for a moment. The warmth of his touch sent a rush of heat through her veins. "See you tomorrow," Lucas said, his voice barely audible, but the way he said it made her heart flutter once again. Mia stepped out of the car, her mind racing as she walked toward her door. She didn't know what to make of the strange pull she felt toward him. It wasn't just physical attraction. It was something deeper, something she wasn't ready to face. But every time he looked at her, she felt herself slipping further. As she closed the door behind her, Mia rested her forehead against it for a moment, closing her eyes. She had always been in control of her emotions, but with Lucas, she felt like she was losing that control. She wasn't sure if she was ready to give in to these feelings, but the pull was undeniable. The days that followed seemed to drag on for Mia. Every time she saw Lucas, her heart would race, her body betraying her despite her best efforts to keep control. She had never been this affected by someone before, and it both excited and terrified her. Lucas was always professional, always polite, but Mia could sense the undercurrent of something more. Something unspoken that hung between them. One afternoon as they drove through the city, Mia found herself lost in thought, staring out the window. The streets blurred by, but her mind was focused entirely on Lucas. She wasn't sure when it happened, but somewhere along the way she had crossed a line she hadn't even known existed. "Mia," Lucas's voice broke through her thoughts, soft and calm. "Are you okay?" His hand briefly brushed hers as he reached for the gear shift, and the contact sent a shiver through her body. "You seem distant today." This story is about to take a turn. If you're intrigued, make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more. Your support means the world. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment. Mia's breath hitched as she looked up at him, and for the first time she saw something different in his eyes. It was subtle, but it was there. A flicker of something deeper, something more intense than what they'd shared before. It made her heart race even faster. "I'm fine," Mia replied quickly, looking away. She couldn't let herself feel this, not now. Just a long day. She tried to mask the confusion swirling inside her, but Lucas wasn't convinced. He could see it in her eyes. "Mia," he said softly, his voice low but firm. "You don't have to hide from me. I can tell when something's bothering you." He glanced at her, his gaze lingering a moment too long. "If you want to talk, I'm here." Mia's pulse quickened, and for a moment she almost told him everything. How she had been feeling drawn to him, how his presence affected her, how she couldn't stop thinking about him. But the words caught in her throat, and instead she simply nodded. "Maybe another time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As the car pulled up to her apartment, the air between them seemed thick with unspoken words. Lucas stopped the car, but neither of them moved right away. Mia sat there staring ahead, her hands clenched in her lap, as if she were trying to hold herself together. "Mia," Lucas said softly, his voice low and sincere. "I don't want to push you, but I can't ignore what's between us. I just need you to know that I'm not going anywhere." His words, so simple but so heavy, hung in the air, and for the first time, Mia felt a real decision was about to be made. Mia looked at him, then really looked at him, and for the first time the wall she had built around herself seemed to crack just a little. She could feel the pull between them, stronger now than ever before. But was she ready to let go? Was she ready to cross that line? The silence stretched on, thick and heavy, as both of them waited for the other to make a move. Finally, Mia took a deep breath, and with a slow exhale, she stepped out of the car, her heart racing with anticipation. The next morning, Mia woke up with the events of the previous night still fresh in her mind. Lucas' words echoed in her head, and she couldn't shake the image of his eyes looking at her with such intensity. Her body still buzzed with the memory of his touch, that brief but electric moment when his hand had brushed against hers. It had shaken her more than she cared to admit. As she prepared for her day, Mia tried to push all of it aside. She had a busy schedule, and she had always been someone who prided herself on being in control. But this was different. There was a part of her that was afraid to acknowledge the attraction, the growing tension between them. She didn't know if she could handle it, and the thought of getting hurt again was enough to keep her on edge. That afternoon, as Lucas drove her to a meeting, the air between them felt different. It was thicker, charged with something neither of them could ignore. Mia couldn't help but steal glances at him, noticing the way his jaw clenched when he focused on the road, the way his muscles tensed under his shirt as he maneuvered the car through traffic. Every little detail about him seemed to draw her in further. "Lucas," Mia said softly, breaking the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you ever feel like we're crossing a line here?" Her heart skipped a beat, and she instantly regretted speaking the words aloud. She didn't want to admit how confused she was, but the question had slipped out before she could stop herself. Lucas' grip on the steering wheel tightened, and for a brief moment, he didn't answer. The tension in the car was palpable, thick enough to almost taste. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost strained. "I don't know what's happening between us, Mia, but I can't pretend like it doesn't matter." Mia's heart raced at his words. She had been expecting him to downplay it, to tell her she was overthinking, but instead, he had said the one thing that made her heart flip. He couldn't ignore it either. Her breath caught in her throat as she tried to steady herself. For the rest of the ride, neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was as though both of them were waiting for something, for the other to make the next move, for the inevitable to happen. When they finally reached her apartment, Lucas turned to her, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Mia," he said, his voice husky, "I need you to know. I'm not going anywhere. If you're willing to take this step with me, I'm here. But you have to decide if you're ready." His words were clear, but the way he said them made it feel like a promise. Mia stood there for a moment, the weight of his words sinking in. She could feel her heart racing, the uncertainty of it all gnawing at her. She wasn't sure if she was ready to cross that line, but for the first time in a long time, she realized that she wanted to. "I'm ready," she whispered, her voice shaking slightly as she finally allowed herself to admit it. As she stepped toward him, the distance between them seemed to vanish. As the days passed, the shift between Mia and Lucas became undeniable. The attraction they had both tried to suppress for so long was now in full bloom. Every glance, every touch seemed to ignite something deep inside them, something neither of them was ready to fully acknowledge but both of them could feel. Mia felt like she was walking a tightrope. One wrong move and everything could come crashing down. One evening after dinner at a fancy restaurant, they sat in the car outside her apartment. The city lights flickered in the distance, casting soft shadows across their faces. The car was silent, save for the faint hum of the engine. Lucas had turned the engine off but didn't move. Mia was already halfway out of her seat when his voice stopped her. "Mia," Lucas said softly, his voice low yet full of intent. He turned to face her, his gaze intense, his eyes searching hers like they had so many times before, but now there was something deeper in them. "I can't keep pretending that this is just business between us. The way I feel about you, it's not something I can ignore anymore." Mia felt her heart flutter at his words, and for a moment she was speechless. She had known this was coming, yet the reality of it hit her hard. She turned to face him, her breath catching in her throat as she tried to find the right words. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I feel it too. But I don't know if I'm ready for this. I've been hurt before, and I'm scared of letting anyone get too close." Her voice trembled with vulnerability, the walls she had built around her cracking with every word. Lucas reached out, his hand brushing gently against her cheek. "I won't hurt you, Mia," he said softly, his thumb caressing her skin. "I'm here because I care about you, more than I've ever cared about anyone." His words were raw, vulnerable, and it made Mia feel both exposed and cared for. Mia closed her eyes at the touch, feeling her breath catch in her chest. She wanted to pull away, to stay in control, but something inside her yearned for more. She hadn't allowed herself to feel this vulnerable in so long. "I don't know if I can trust this," Mia said, her voice thick with emotion. "But I'm willing to try, Lucas. If you're still here tomorrow, I'll take that step with you." Lucas smiled, a soft, knowing smile that made her heart flutter. "I'll be here, Mia, every step of the way." He leaned in slowly, his lips brushing against her forehead in a gentle, reassuring kiss. The moment was tender, filled with unspoken promises. As Mia stepped out of the car and walked toward her door, her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. She had taken the first step, but she knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Still, for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was moving toward something real. The following days felt different. Mia and Lucas were no longer just employer and employee. Their relationship had shifted, deepened, and it seemed like nothing could ever be the same again. Mia found herself waking up with thoughts of him on her mind, and Lucas was always just a phone call away, his voice a constant source of comfort. One evening they found themselves sitting in a cozy cafe, their fingers lightly brushing as they passed each other their coffee cups. It was a simple moment, but for both of them it felt monumental. The intimacy between them had grown steadily, but there was still a part of Mia that hesitated, unsure if she was truly ready to take this leap. "Mia," Lucas said softly, his voice full of affection. He reached out and took her hand, gently threading his fingers through hers. "I know we've both been through a lot, and I don't expect you to have all the answers right now, but I need you to know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Mia looked at him, her heart swelling with emotions she had long buried. She had never allowed herself to trust anyone like this before, and it terrified her. But there was something in his eyes, something so sincere, that made her want to believe in him. "I don't know what the future holds," she whispered, "but I know I don't want to lose you." Lucas smiled, his eyes softening as he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to worry about that," he said, his voice warm. "I'm not going anywhere, Mia. We'll take this one step at a time." For the first time in a long while, Mia felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had been so afraid of getting hurt again, so afraid of losing herself in someone else. But in Lucas, she found a strength she hadn't known she needed. Someone who didn't want to take from her, but wanted to build something with her. They spent the rest of the evening talking about everything and nothing. Their hopes, their fears, the things that kept them awake at night. And for the first time, Mia felt like she was no longer alone in her struggles. She had someone to lean on, someone who saw her for who she truly was, not just the woman she had pretended to be. As Mia walked back to her apartment, hand in hand with Lucas, she realized that for the first time in years, she was no longer afraid of the future. She wasn't sure what it would bring, but she knew that with Lucas by her side, she was ready to face whatever came her way. "I'm ready," she whispered as they stopped in front of her door. "For whatever comes next." Lucas kissed her forehead gently, a promise in his touch. "I'll be here, Mia. Always." As the days passed, Mia and Lucas' relationship blossomed. They spent more time together, each day bringing them closer. Mia found herself laughing more, her heart feeling lighter with every passing moment. Lucas was everything she had needed, but there was still something in her that hesitated, a lingering fear she couldn't shake. One evening, as they sat in her apartment, sipping wine, Lucas turned to her with a serious expression. He had been quiet for a while, his gaze thoughtful, as if he was contemplating something important. Mia noticed the change in him immediately. "Lucas?" she asked softly, setting down her glass. "What's going on?" Lucas hesitated, then spoke, his voice low. "Mia, I need to ask you something. I know we've been moving fast, but I need to understand something. You've been so open with me, but I can't help but feel there's still something you're not telling me. Something from your past that's holding you back." Mia froze at his words. She hadn't expected him to bring it up, the one thing she had been trying so hard to keep buried. Her past. The things that had shaped her into who she was, but that she couldn't bring herself to talk about. "I don't want to hide things from you," Mia said, her voice shaky. "But I'm not sure I'm ready to talk about it. Not yet." She could feel the walls inside her tightening, the ones she had worked so hard to build. But Lucas was right. There were pieces of her past that were still raw, pieces that hurt too much to confront. Lucas reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. His touch was warm, reassuring. "Mia, you don't have to tell me everything all at once. I just want you to know that whatever it is, I'm here for you. You don't have to face it alone." His words were sincere, and for the first time, Mia felt like maybe she didn't have to carry all of her burdens on her own. Mia looked at him, her eyes softening. "It's not easy," she whispered, "but maybe one day, I'll be able to share it with you." She felt a wave of relief wash over her as she said it. The fear, the uncertainty, they were still there, but they didn't feel as suffocating. Not anymore. "Whenever you're ready, Mia, I'll be here," Lucas said, his voice soft and steady. He didn't push her, didn't ask her to open up right away. He simply wanted her to know that she wasn't alone, and that whatever demons she was fighting, he would be there, ready to help her face them. As they sat there, the weight of her past still hung in the air, but for the first time Mia felt like maybe, just maybe, she was finally ready to face it. She wasn't alone. And with Lucas by her side, she felt like the future wasn't as scary as it once had seemed. The days following their conversation were filled with an uneasy calm. Mia was grateful for Lucas' patience and understanding, but deep inside, she still felt a part of her holding back. Every time she looked at him, she saw the promise he had made, that he would be there for her, no matter what. But the fear of truly letting go, of confronting the pain of her past, still lingered like a shadow. One evening, as they sat together on the couch in her apartment, Mia finally spoke up. It had been a long time coming, but the time had come to face the truth about her past, the truth about what had shaped her, and the truth about why she had always kept her heart locked away. "Lucas," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "there's something I haven't told you, Something that's been holding me back for years. She paused, her fingers gripping the edge of the cushion as she tried to steady her nerves. When I was younger, I was in an abusive relationship. He controlled every part of my life, and I lost myself in it. I've never really healed from that. Lucas' expression softened immediately, his gaze filled with concern. He reached out, taking her hands in his touch gentle. "Mia," he said, his voice low and sincere, "I had no idea. I'm so sorry you went through that. But you don't have to carry that pain alone anymore. I'm here. I'll help you heal." Mia felt a tear slip down her cheek, and she wiped it away quickly, not wanting to show weakness. But the overwhelming relief she felt in that moment was impossible to ignore. For the first time in years, she felt like she wasn't alone, that there was someone who would support her through this darkness. "Thank you, Lucas," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't think I could trust anyone again, but you've shown me that it's possible. Maybe I can heal, maybe I can move forward." Lucas pulled her into a gentle embrace, holding her close as if to tell her without words that he was there for her, always. The comfort of his arms, the steadiness of his presence, made Mia feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. She closed her eyes, letting herself lean into the warmth of him. "You're stronger than you think, Mia," Lucas murmured against her hair. "I believe in you." His words were simple, yet they felt like a promise, like a vow that he would never let her go. As they pulled away, Mia looked up at him, her eyes full of gratitude. She had never realized how much she needed someone to help carry her burdens, how much she needed to share her past with someone who truly cared. And with Lucas, she finally found that person. "Thank you," she whispered again, "for everything." Lucas smiled gently, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "You don't have to thank me, Mia," he said. "I'm here because I want to be. Because you're worth it." Mia leaned in and kissed him softly, a kiss full of emotion and unspoken promises. As they pulled away, she knew that this was just the beginning. A new chapter in her life with Lucas by her side. And for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to move forward. The following weeks felt like a dream. Mia and Lucas grew closer, their bond becoming stronger with each passing day. She found herself laughing more, not out of obligation, but out of genuine joy. She had never felt so alive, so unburdened. The weight of her past, while still there, was no longer suffocating her. With Lucas by her side, she felt like she could breathe again. One afternoon, as they sat in the park, watching the sun set behind the trees, Lucas turned to her, his expression serious but soft. "Mia," he began, his voice steady, "I know we've been through a lot together and I know you're still healing, but I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here and I'm not leaving." Mia looked at him, feeling the weight of his words. She had been afraid of trusting someone again, afraid of getting hurt. But with Lucas, she felt something different. A calm certainty, a promise that she had never felt before. She reached out and took his hand, holding it tightly. "I know," Mia whispered, her voice soft but firm. "I'm not afraid anymore. I'm ready to take this step with you." The words felt like a weight lifting off her chest, and she could finally breathe freely. Lucas smiled, his eyes shining with something deeper, something that mirrored the joy Mia felt in her own heart. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said, his thumb gently caressing the back of her hand. "But I'm with you, Mia. Always." That evening, as they walked hand in hand down the path, Mia realized that this was the beginning of something new. The road ahead was uncertain, yes, but for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what came next. She wasn't alone anymore. With Lucas by her side, she knew she could face anything. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice filled with hope. "We've made it this far, and now we'll face the future together." Lucas nodded, his hand tightening around hers. "Together," he said. "Always." If you enjoyed this story and want to dive deeper into the emotional journey, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Be sure to hit the like button, share the video to help spread the story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future videos. Your comments and subscriptions are a huge motivation for me to keep creating more exciting and engaging stories. Thank you so much for your support.